So I hope you all are excited for the first panel discussion of the day. And the theme for this discussion, first panel discussion, is leading through change, developing resilient HR strategies. And we have a panel, moderator and two speakers, very experienced stalwarts in HR industry. First, I would invite them on the stage. I will give their introduction and then I will hand over the floor to our moderator, sir. So moderator for the panel discussion one is Dr. Adil Malia, sir. Please come on the stage, sir. Let me introduce Dr. Adil Malia. He is a seasoned expert in leadership and people management, has over 30 years of experience in senior roles globally. He now leads the firm as CEO and managing director. The name of the firm is The Firm. But if you look at his vast experience, he has worked with many organizations. For example, he started his career with Godrej, then GE, then Group President HR for Coca-Cola, and he has been a global people management leader for SR Group for 11 years. And right now, he is the CEO and managing partner of the firm. Please welcome Dr. Adil Malia. With him, we have two experienced speakers. I will introduce them and invite them on the stage. First, I will invite Dr. Rajorshi Ganguli, sir, to please come on the stage. I request all of you to have a clap for him. Dr. Rajorshi Ganguli is a distinguished HR leader with over 3 decades of experience in strategic HR roles across multiple industries. He started with petroleum industry with BP from a bottom of the pyramid as a senior officer. He started with BP, then with USA Martin, so in manufacturing industry. Then he went to pharmaceutical, 13 years with Dr. Reddy's as a VP and head commercial and HR. And now for 7+ years, he is a president and global HR head at Alkem Laboratories. Please welcome Dr. Rajorshi Ganguli. One more interesting information that I would like to share with you. Recently, he has launched his book, Winning with Gen Z, The Engagement and Retention Blueprint at Work. And this book is available today on sale at AMA counter. And this interesting thing is this book sale will go towards sponsoring a year of education for an underprivileged child. We deeply appreciate this thoughtful gesture. Thank you very much, sir. And another speaker here is Mr. Deepak Gupta. I request Mr. Deepak Gupta to join the panel on the stage. Mr. Deepak Gupta, with over 2 decades of progressive experience in human resources, he is an accomplished HR leader currently serving as a managing director HR, MD HR at SS&C Technologies based in Hyderabad, Telangana. He also has a long and vast experience working with different type of companies, like he was vice president with Deloitte also. And we look forward to a very engaging and exciting panel discussion. Sir, over to Dr. Adil Malia to take over this panel discussion.
Audible? Audible? Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And it is my pleasure, and I first need to thank AMA for having invited me out here to be moderating this session. Possibly in my 40 years, this is the first time that I have come to AMA, though I have lectured sufficient number of times at IIM Ahmedabad, but I've never had the opportunity to come to AMA. So I thank you for inviting me out here. It's a new experience. What a wonderful organization you have out here. I must compliment all the people who have gone to make this organization so successful. So I have this wonderful task of moderating this panel discussion with two very, very erudite professionals who are out here with solid experience and whose names themselves are so powerful One has a name which says Rajorshi, means he has the knowledge of a Raja and the wisdom of a Rishi. So you can imagine the kind of knowledge that's going to be coming out. And the other is a gentleman whose name itself is so bright, it says it's Deepak. So with these kinds of gentlemen that we are going to have very meaningful discussion on a theme and a subject which is so close to all of us that we have been all talking about it for the last several years. Time brings in a lot of challenges. It's a very beautiful thing. There's a lovely quote which says, "Kitna bhi pakad lo sahab, fisalta zaruri hai. Ye waqt hai sahab, badalta zaruri hai." So there is no way you can hold on to the changing time. And with the changing time, the new opportunities and the new challenges are going to come. And when these new opportunities and challenges are going to come, they are going to challenge the status quo. They're going to challenge the way you have been doing things. And therefore, the new technology, which is going to be determining a lot of changes that we are experiencing, is certainly going to be bringing in a lot of hard times and comfortable, easy times in the future development. So if today at 5:30 p.m. we were to look back at this lovely long day and say, so what is it? We are aware of it, that technology and digitization is bringing about a lot of change. What is the one lesson I am taking back? Are there some applications? Are there some technologies? What am I taking back? And if I were to look into this, again, I'll take refuge into the sanctuary of Urdu poetry, which says, "Apni soch ko badlo jani, sitare apne aap badal jayenge. Apni soch ko badlo jani, sitare apne aap badal jayenge. Nazar ko badlo jani, nazare apne aap badal jayenge. कश्तियां बदलने की जरूरत न करो, दिशाएं बदलो, किनारे अपने आप बदल जाएंगे." The changing technology is going to bring in a lot many changes. But if you were to say, what am I supposed to do? I would say, do only one thing. Change the way you are looking and be ready to bring in the change in the direction you should. Set your sail right and you will reach the destination you want to reach. So it is with this kind of thought, I would say that the greatest blunder is for most of us who are in the status quo is to believe that tomorrow is an extension of today. Whatever we were doing tomorrow, we love to extend it into trying to do it tomorrow. And that's where we start getting the most uncomfortable feel of trying to do it differently. Unfortunately, that is not true. The geopolitical models of the world have gone through change. We have just experienced with one so-called big man in America trying to change the geopolitical order of the world. And we know the kind of implications we have experienced. The business models world over are changing. They are no longer the same business models we have worked with. The consumer needs and insights are changing. I was just coming out here and I was telling my grandson, so I'm giving you $500 for the weekend. What will you do with it? So he says, I'm going to buy diamonds. You're going to buy diamonds? 500 rupees? What diamonds? Some biscuits? Saying, no, there is this one game in which if you buy diamonds, then the gun becomes more powerful than the gun of your competitor. So I want to buy diamonds so that I can play a more powerful game out there. So the consumer insights is changing in such a way that even despite of several years of experience, you don't even understand the language in which the world is talking to you. And therefore, unless you learn how to cope with it, you will not learn it. Resources are totally different. Work locations are totally different. The concept of money is totally different. The concept of success is totally different. And everything that you believed was the way you believed is different. Therefore, what do we bring in with the experiences that we have got in a world which is so much more different? Why do we value those experiences at all? Because there is no relevance. Again, a beautiful quote. तूफा की कमी नहीं जिंदगी में, हंसते हुए सफर तय करना होगा. जो मिले है जख्म सफरे राहों में, उसे जिंदगी का तजुर्बा समझना होगा. लाख जख्म खाने पर भी हर जख्म नया ही होगा. तजुर्बा चाहे कितना भी हो, हर तजुर्बा नया ही होगा. So whichever experience you are taking, irrespective of the kind of experiences and the kind of knowledge and the kind of capability that you bring on table, each experience is new. So what are you really wondering about? What are you really talking about that I have so many years of experience? That experience is outdated because every element of what you succeeded in doing is no longer the element which is going to be prevailing in the future world. But if that is what you learn, that it is different, and if that is what you learn, that to succeed you will have to use your wisdom, then that is the experience we want you to take forward. To realize that each experience is different, each time you have to learn a new thing, each time there will be empathy required when the change will be causing a lot of emotional dishevelments, and if that is what your experience has taught you, then that is exactly what you will succeed in the going future. So it is with this kind of thought that the larger theme of what the conference is targeted to, the future of HR trends, is going to talk. And I am going to be talking to these two gentlemen, wonderful gentlemen, asking them all the wicked and difficult questions. And I actually told them that I have given them some questions which I'm not going to ask them. Because if this is the versatile experience that they bring on table, then we don't need to be prepared with questions. They should be answering these questions with their experience. So I intentionally gave them questions saying I'm going to ask them, but I'm not going to ask them those questions. How's that? You have to go back. So tell ChatGPT how's the answer different now. So with this kind of backdrop, I'm going to be asking the question, as I said, so as I was telling you, if the storm was to happen, and if the storm was to teach you how to use not your experience because it taught you the things which are no longer relevant, then what is it that has taught you which will really see you going forward in time? It is the ability to understand that each storm is different, each storm is new, and therefore you need to be coping with that storm differently with new skill sets and not the same. Because weapons of yesterday cannot win wars of tomorrow. And unless and until you equip yourself, not only with the weapons, but with the emotional equilibrium and stability that you need to bring about in the change, that is the only time you will be able to succeed. We are living in times of what we call Sita, And why we call it Sita, not because it has anything to do with Ramayana, and of course everything has to do with Ramayana, but it is still not linked directly to Ramayana. When we say it is a world of Sita, we say S is very important because service orientation, whichever way you look at it, none of the changes, none of the technologies, none of the things that we want to bring about will have any meaning which will be sustainable in the long run unless and until it services a certain need. And therefore, service orientation of what you are trying to drive is very, very critical. If you are trying to service your human resources, then how is the technology and what are the emotions that will go into making you service it better? And that is the S of the Sita that we are talking about. Your I is very important because it's going to tell you that what are the insights, what is the intelligence you bring on table, and therefore what are the intuitions that you are going to be working with. It's a world of intuition much more than only intelligence. And therefore, how are you capturing the intuitions of the people you are servicing? And that is very important. Technology, of course, is very important. But technology with wisdom, because technology is not the end state. Technology is a moving state. What technology you know today is going to be itself outdated tomorrow. So therefore, ability to continuously move with technology and the capabilities and abilities you require is actually the modern day version of the Sita that's going to bring in a change. You need to be focusing on that, and we're going to ask them how they are going to be doing it in the changing times that they are handling it. However, having said all of that, if you ask me, what is the one thing that leaders have always done, successful leaders, and they will have to continue to do that irrespective of the technology, irrespective of the times? Most admirable leaders inspire action. And if with the changing times, you as leaders are unable to inspire action, whatever is relevant action of the time, you will fail in your task as a leader in the changing time. Therefore, what should leader be doing in a changing environment of technology? What are the new trends, irrespective of what are the trends, because trends will come in, and the nature of trend is that it will die itself out like time. But what is it that leaders should be doing? You have to inspire action. And what are the 4 things good leaders do? I jokingly say, remember my name is Adil, and I say it's agility, drive, innovation, and leadership, and learning. Agility, drive, innovation, and learning are the 4 things that you will have to continue to do wherever you're going. Agility, of course, with the changing times, you will have to be very agile. You need to have the drive, because passion is what is going to lead you to whatever are the changing situations. Resilience will only come if you are passionate about your purpose. Otherwise, the train will move on and you say, abhi ye train chal gaya, abhi late jayenge hum. But agar wo train chali gayi station se aur fir bhi hame waqt pe jana hai, so you should be having the passion to reach the destination on time. It's only then that your resilience will work. Innovation, because the changing world is not going to let you do the same thing again and again, and therefore you will have to be innovative. And unless and until you are a learner all your life, and learning does not come to an end, you will never thrive and you'll never succeed. So that's the kind of backdrop thought that I had in mind. And I'm going to leave it to you people as I ask these questions to them. I'm going to request both of them to invest around 5 to 7 minutes to give a backdrop thought on the subject. And thereafter, we will put them through the wicked questioning that we have in mind for them. And then you can be more wicked by asking still more wicked questions to them. All right, such questions that they have not heard ever, and such questions which will give you the answers to what your real-time challenges are all about. So with that, Rajorshi, will you invest 5 minutes of your wonderful time in telling them what your thoughts are?
So good morning, everyone. And it was pleasure to be here. And first of all, I must thank Deepak Bhai, who I think just was behind me for several months to be here. And this is, like you, Adil, I'm also first time attending a conference in Ahmedabad, though we visit very often here. You know, this place, this whole state is the hub of entrepreneurship of our whole nation. So when we are talking of, you know, a subject like this, leading through change, I think many change has been initiated from here, right from the days of Gandhiji. Now, Adil, you have already set the context and I think summarized very well that, you know, what's happening. And so to me, you know, the way I look at things, and today when we say future of HR, and I think this topic has been debated very often, before we discuss the future of HR, I think we should first discuss, or I mean, we have discussed since morning, we heard Professor Meyer, we heard Venkatesh. There are a lot of things happening in the business itself. How many of you sitting here are heading business? Some of you. And I guess most of you are part of HR or other fraternity. See, the predictability of business itself is, you know, it's very difficult to predict today. Very often when I sit with my own CEO or, you know, my managing director, for us to even get a visibility of more than 6 months is becoming difficult. As HR people, you know, we always pride ourselves of writing our goals and KRAs at the beginning of the year. Do we do that? How many of your KRAs are set for this year? You know, I mean, don't quote me, or you can quote me also. It's a futile exercise. Because when I see my KRA at the beginning of the year and what I have actually done to move the organization, those are very different. You know, and I keep asking myself why me and my team keep pushing people at the end of the year to write their self-assessment or, you know, write the goals document, because it's a every year annual exercise where, you know, people struggle. And 30 years back, probably when I started my career, and Adil, you started probably much ahead of me. We all admire you in the industry. Things were a little bit different. Today, we find it extremely difficult to predict what will happen after 3 to 4 years. So, and that's because the business models are changing. If you look at future, I think, by and large, the crux of all business will remain same. The business have to obviously grow, make money. But what we are already seeing a shift is beyond efficiency and profit, it's also about purpose. If we are not able to create a business which also creates a compelling purpose, it will be very difficult to stand out in front of the stakeholders and shareholders. And the future generation which are going to work, and they have already started working, and I've already also covered in my book, they would also like to work for organizations which stands for certain purpose and not just profit. It's something very difficult for us to consume. Of course, business has to make profit, but if the future workforce is not able to identify with the purpose, they will not be attracted to work towards that, with that organization. So that's one set of change which is happening. The other are the constant pressures of digitalization, AI, Gen AI that we are talking about, pressures of ESG, environment concerns, very unpredictable political environment that all of us face. Today there is a change of government in one part of the world, it affects our business, which is already happening. For example, you must be following the news of US. People who are part of our industry, they are having to rethink some of the business models, which we were not thinking even 6 months back. Companies who have, high dependence on certain countries beyond India, they have to rethink. That's why I said, the KRAs that we wrote even 3-4 months back sometimes look invalid now. That's the rate of change that we are dealing with. In this background, therefore, the future of HR is, I would say, has to focus on two things beyond the many hundreds things that we'll be doing, is how do you create that sustainable leadership which will understand this, sense this, create opportunities for the organization so that the organization itself is sustainable. At the same time, each organization or their CEO is under huge pressure to perform every quarter. So there's a paradox. One hand, you have to create a sustainable organization which lasts for many decades. Like we heard this gentleman said that his organization is 180 years old, which are some of the rarest organizations today. At the same time, how do you deliver quarter-on-quarter profit? Because the shareholders are hounding you. So how do you balance this kind of paradox? Is the challenge in front of every leader today. And in HR, how do you kind of create an ecosystem or governance or an environment where leadership thrives in this? The other part, the influx of technology, etc., is creating a very different kind of employee experience. And that's where HR has to also balance this. And the last is the entire change of demography itself. If you look at, I come from an organizations where it's a very traditional or a, kind of brick and mortar kind of organization. But we are seeing a dramatic change in the employee profile. And with the change of employee profile, how do you manage such aspirations? For example, almost close to 40% of our own organization is Gen Z. They come with a very different aspiration than what it used to be, let's say, 15, 20 years back. So how do you kind of guide the leadership to deliver this? So I think in all this, so one is the business model, the leadership, the way the leaders have to behave and sense to sustain the organization. And the third is the the whole employee demographic and experience, I think these 2, 3 things come together to really create the future for work, future for HR, and how do you create a sustainable organization will be my initial take.
In fact, wonderful thoughts, Rajorshi. What I really picked up was criticality of sustainable leadership for sustainable organization. How can organizations be sustainable if the leadership which provides direction is itself not sustainable? If there is constant change in leadership every 2-3 years and each one comes with a bright new idea of what the future is going to look like, then how can the organization drive its energies and life-giving forces to fulfill the purpose if leadership keeps changing so frequently? Wonderful point. And on one aside, he rightly said that even he has come to AMA for the first time. But fact is, Rajorshi, that they say that irrespective of what you have done in your life, unless AMA invites you, you have not arrived. Right. Good. So Deepak, I understand you have a presentation that you want to make.
No, I'll just speak the slide.
Oh, you'll speak it without that. All right. That's great. So give us your breakthrough thoughts.
First of all, good morning, everybody, and thanks to AMA for having me here. In fact, after all the stars were talking, Dr. Adil, Dr. Rajorshi, Venkatesh, I'm not sure what more I can add. So I always say all of the above. So I'll start with that. Instead of talking about various points, I have few stories which I am going to share with all of you. Okay, and when I was looking for the topic for today, developing resilient leader. So I think of our history, how Raja Ram became Bhagwan Ram. That's a wonderful story for all of us of the resilient leadership. Now imagine a prince come back after marrying and he was supposed to be anointed as a king. And the moment he lands in Ayodhya, he was told, no, you have to change and you have to go back. You have to go to forest with his newly wedded wife. Is it a setback? Had it been any normal person, this would have been a big setback and that person never knew what to do. But that's where the leadership starts. He, along with his wife and brother, goes back to the jungle. He comes back from that particular setback and he lived peacefully for at least 13 years in jungle. But one fine day, his wife is abducted by one of the most powerful king called Ravana. Now imagine again, as a normal human being, what would you be thinking? To give up, to do something differently? And big setback. Again, it's a powerful example of resilient leadership. As a resilient leader, he decided, and Dr. Rajorshi talked about purposeful work. Now he moved forward and he gathers the army of Vanara, or those people, the people who were, we call it, marginalized people of the society. But he gave them purpose. By giving them purpose, he created the most powerful army on the earth. Right? He could have sided with Bali, but he didn't. Because Bali always thought he's the best. What was his purpose? His purpose was not just to get the Caesar, but to showcase his power. So therefore, he collected the army of the people who were marginalized, who never knew what to do, how to use their power, whether, first of all, they have the power or not. So he gave them purpose, he collected those army, he moved, and he defeated Ravana using this army. That's a wonderful example of resilient leader. And if you connect to the current time, all our stall was talking about the change. Have we ever seen these kind of changes in our life? People are talking about purposeful leadership. This is the purpose he has given to his people. Has he ever taken his people along with him? Yes, he has. Now imagine Ravana getting, or his brother Lakshman, he was on the deathbed. What is the setback he has faced? What is the situation he has got? But he maintained calm. He thought through. And he came back strongly. He created the strategy. So that's one of the wonderful story I want to share with you. Now coming to the recent time, let's talk about technology. People are talking about technology, right? Now we have seen internet. Do you know how many years internet took to reach 100 million people? Anybody? Any guess? Sorry? Close to that, 15 years it took for internet to reach 100 million people. And do you know how many years ChatGPT took? 1 billion download. Less than 1 year, few months actually. Now imagine the exponential change in the technology landscape. Have you prepared for that? Let's talk about other things. You all have BCP department in your company? The BCP, the risk mitigation? You all have? How many of you prepared for Trump? One statement today, the S&P goes up. The next day, the different statement, S&P goes down. What will you do? How many of you prepared, you all have risk department, how many of you prepared for COVID-19? That one day, our great leader, Modi ji, will come back and tell that everything is closed. How many of you prepared? We have 8,000 people in India today. We were not prepared, let me tell you. We never thought that this day will ever come. Majority, out of 8,000 people, 7,000 people were working on desktop in office. But the office closed. But does it mean that stock market stopped? Our main business area in US, UK and different markets? Does it mean healthcare stopped? It had to continue. Somebody has to support. Can we ask our people to sit at home and enjoy their life? Not really. So we had seen that setback. But in a very short amount of time, whatever cash reserve we had, we used it to buy the machines to deliver at each and every home of those 7,000 people. That's the leadership I have come across. Does it make sense? So these are the things which I want to change. And in my view, today there are only two things which we have to think of. One is the technology, the digital. The another is the new generation, the boundary-less work we call it. So as we move forward, we're going to talk more about it. Again, you have already heard it. And I hope I'll be sharing more and more stories like that. Thank you.
Say, what is resilience? So they say that the wave that knocks you down retreats. Rise before the next one comes, because resilience lies in rapid recovery, not in avoiding falls. Fall is very, very natural when the situation changes. You are going to be hit. You cannot avoid being hit. But resilience as a factor in organization and leadership is about, once the hit comes, how quickly are you able to get up to fight again? Like in boxing, they say you don't lose when you are hit. You lose only when you are unable to get up to fight. And that is what resilience is all about. So with that in mind, Rajorshi, tell me, what are, in actual terms, two changes that you really see technology bringing, other than the ones that everyone knows and other than the ones that we are aware of? What are the real two big changes and shifts that you believe the future world is going to have?
So there are actually several, but
No, two big ones.
big ones, I think, the shifts that, as I said, I think the first is, the business will move from just being efficient to how really you create opportunities. What I mean is, maybe it may sound a bit abstract, but see, in today's business, we talk about just creating opportunities. We create products or services which sells. that will be one model of business which will be always there, but I see that going forward, there will be several kinds of business where even traditional products or service will be more on an access platform available to consumers. It's like the Airbnb model. Airbnb doesn't have any asset, as you all know, but they are an aggregator of a certain kind of service where people access. These kind of models to me would flourish more and more in different ways. So it is not necessarily you have to create a product and sell. You create a product, people use it, create opportunities, and you probably make money off it. So just moving from efficiency to how you create using technology, create these services, it's like the SaaS model in the IT world for different kind of products, and that is possible. We have to, the world would move towards that. The other, I think the shift which I see is, if you look at the tech part of it, I think we have spoken more about the tech part, but I think I would shift a little bit to the leadership. How leaders in the organization are able to sense the whole tech invasion which is happening in their business or the changes which are happening, and how they are really able to swiftly act. I think that is a big shift which will be required from the leaders of tomorrow. So it will be not just about IQ, which leaders have to have, but can we combine IQ with also EQ and probably a DQ? I mean, let's say it's a digital quotient. How do you combine all that to create opportunity for the business to grow? I think these are some of the big shifts that are going to happen. Maybe we'll talk more, but to me, these are, the way I see things. May not be very clear today, but as we move forward, probably after 10 years, these things will be visible more.
Super. In fact, today we have the distinct advantage of having two uniquely different types of HR leaders. One is a classical, qualified, 20 years, 25 years, long-term careerist HR professional. And on the other end, there is a non-HR professional IT graduate who has gone into HR and leading the HR function. So we have the advantage of looking at the function and its contributions in two different dimensions. And I'm going to ask this question to both of them. What are some of the things you believe, and because this is a largely an HR forum, what are some of the things that currently you see HR managers doing which they should immediately stop doing or do differently if they want to thrive and succeed in their roles as HR managers? Because, everyone has been doing the classical HR role. What is the changing world going to be impacting them? And therefore, what should they be doing or not doing? Those two or three things which you believe. So Deepak, can we begin with you to think on this?
First of all, this is out of syllabus.
Yes, all out of syllabus questions. Because ChatGPT ko pucha hai, wo nahi puchunga main.
So in fact, when I think of HR, and a lot of people who have been working with us or with whom we end up interacting, whether the new graduates or the people who started the career. So they ask very often what we should be doing differently, or what should we be doing to stay put, to sustain in our career overall. I think I must say 2-3 things. The first is, forget about what you have been doing today, as of now, and think of how the trend is going to take shape in 10 years. Majority of the people have very bad habit not to accept the reality. And the reality is, like I mentioned, the world is changing very fast. Okay, and the pace of change will become more and more. HR cannot afford to be working in silo. I asked somebody in my team, do you know what exactly we do? And let me tell you, 80% of time, I don't get the right answer. That's the biggest worry, first of all, to begin with. If you look at the whole HR origin, we started working in silo and we started thinking that we are running the organization. People will talk about empathy, people will talk about advocacy, everything is great. But at the end of the day, what matters is how it is driving my profitability. If my business is not profitable, I don't need anyone. And to be profitable, I need to be competitive, right? Imagine if you are a CEO, HR is CEO of the organization, then what different you would be doing for your organization? So let's start thinking from there. Okay, so that's the new thing you have to start thinking. And that's a very broad picture. It includes technology, people, everything. The role you are playing today, are this role going to be relevant today? So you have to think that way. And the second important thing is the way we have been doing things for last 10 years, 15 years. For example, the appraisal. How many of you people are still doing this rating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Or bell curve.
Bell curve. Still 90% of, let me tell you, still 90% of
In fact, someone told me that if in today's time any organization or HR manager insists on bell curve, he should get a Nobel Prize.
But let me tell you that 90% of the organizations are still doing it. And many of the business managers, because they have been doing this for years, they feel this is the right way. But does it matter? And I talked to my daughter who started her career last year, and one of her managers keep giving her a lot of feedback. Oh, you don't do this, you don't do this. Let me tell you, if the moment you give this feedback, I'll stop doing everything. I don't do this, I will not do this. So the world is changing, and again I mentioned the two things you always keep remember, the technology and the new generation, the borderless. So the technology will bring closer to everyone. The new generation, they know everything. Just imagine they know everything. All right, so start thinking.
New wars, old weapons.
New was old, yes.
Doesn't work. Good. What are your thoughts, Rajorshi?
So,
And I'm going to do Arnab Goswami on you by saying, just tell us those two things sharp.
yeah.
Stories.
No, that's not fair.
Nation wants to know.
So, what HR should stop, HR by profession would be such a role, or will continue to be such a role, where a lot of things will come to our plate, which falls in no man's land in the organization. I call it toilet to talent. If the toilet is also not working, sometimes you reach out to HR, and if the talent is also not there, you reach out to HR. Okay?
What he means is talent is in the toilet.
So, that part of HR will always, that part of, that role of HR will always remain, but don't get very serious about it, because will eventually become more like an administrative job. What HR would be required is to develop more COE expertise to solve business issues, and that's where HR will have to play a role of a creative, innovative partner to the CEO to really bring about solutions which can solve business problems, help business grow. And there is no set formula. Like the other day, very often I ask HR professionals when I interview them, even for HR, and I ask them some deep HR question. Very often I get the answer, I think this is. I said, do you think, or it is really the answer? No, sir, I'm not sure. So imagine if your CEO is asking this question
Since
to you.
when has HR started thinking?
So, imagine your CEO is asking this question. Can you afford to say, sir, I think this is going to be the solution? And I sometimes give them an example. Suppose you go to a heart surgeon and you have to operate your heart. And suppose the surgeon, keeps looking at you and says, I think I have to cut this vein or that vein. What would happen? So I said, take your job a little more seriously. You are in a deep COE kind of a role, and if you are still guessing or thinking, then, by accident you are in this profession. and so many of us. But even if by accident you have come to this profession, now develop some expertise. Whether are you really a great learning partner, a recruitment partner. So many people say, I know I do a talent acquisition role. It's a little more jargonish term that we have given to what used to call as recruitment when we started our career. But when I ask, what do you do in talent acquisition? The person typically, grapples with the answer, no, sir, I coordinate this, I coordinate that. I said, for that, you don't need your MBA skill. What exactly you do to ensure that this is the talent required for this kind of a business? Have you understood the business? So every part of HR, if you really dissect, there's a deep expertise required. And unfortunately, 90% of people that I meet today, they are kind of more like a journalist. Let's say if you're a learning partner to a business, do you really understand what is the learning need for today and tomorrow, or you are just measured by the number of programs you are doing? That's a wrong indicator. The number of programs will not yield any result for the organization. You'll be just busy. Busy for what? So like that, this is where the sharp COE skills, I think HR will be required.
Super.
Partner with the CEO to solve current issues, predict issues of future, and give the right advisory and solution like a heart surgeon.
Super. And I'm going to throw this up for questions to the audience so that you can ask me questions. But before that, I was once asked by a business manager in a forum which I was addressing of business managers, when will HR guys learn business? And my response is, when will business guys learn HR, which is the only value creating asset in your business? How come you don't know your HR, which is creating value, and you are asking HR guys, when will you know business? How do you distinguish between these two elements, which you can't? So therefore, time for HR to know business and for business to know HR, so that there is no going to be a line alienating the two at all. And that is what the change is going to look like. I'm going to throw it open. Are there any questions, great wicked questions that we can ask these two gentlemen? Yes, it's a wicked question. You sure? Otherwise, I'll ask you a wicked question. Huh?
Kind of.
Sure.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon.
I'm Rajorshi. I'm a learning and development consultant. And my question to both of
Excuse me.
you. Thank you.
No, you can ask to one of them.
Okay. Any one of you, Dr. Rajorshi or Mr. Deepak, which one? Any one of you could address this. As we speak about the future, I conduct a lot of training programs for organizations where we are continuously trying to figure out what would be the best skills that are there for the future talent to be developed. So in the area of soft skills and behavioral skills, which skills would you identify are the strengths of the future generation, and which skills do you think require some kind of upskilling or reskilling as they enter the organization, as per you?
Maybe I'll attempt
Thank God I am coordinating and I don't have to answer these difficult questions. Huh? Manoj, thanks for not asking me.
So, Adil, there is in airlines as we board, there's an upgrade option also. Sometimes when both of us will fail, we'll upgrade to you. So, I think if you look at some of the important skills that one needs to work on, of course, we have spoken about digital skills and all that's given now. I mean, it's like, breathing in oxygen every day. I think more important would be, I think the agility. If critical thinking, agility, these are not developed, you won't be able to survive. You'll be just there hanging around, but you will not be really performing. Because, the other day I was in a fashion technology campus, my daughter studies there, and the director was telling, they were interacting with the parents, and the director himself is an IAS officer, done IIT Madras, computer or maths or whatever. He said that, whatever we have learned in our IIT, today AI can do it. But he was giving example to the students that whatever you are going to do, it requires creativity and innovation. So that's the kind of skills which will be required, because anything which a formula can do, or we felt that we knew formula, therefore we have the rich knowledge. Today, a technology can replicate in few seconds, solve the most difficult physics problem or maths problem or scientific problem, but a real creativity, critical thinking, innovation, AI will find it difficult to solve. You have to be ahead of AI to give the best AI product even. That is one, plus I think the agility will be very important, because in today's business environment, you are as good as you are today. The recipes of yesterday will not allow you to succeed today, and neither tomorrow. So how are you really agile to understand what's happening around you, work in a, not in a linear way. If you are a person who works just in a linear way, you will fail. Have the ability to grasp the things going around you, the clutter going around you, and have a clear solution and move ahead. And keep changing that. What he said, resilience is, getting up, fighting. It's all about even bouncing forward. So how do you really bounce forward, understand that, and after 3 months probably you have to do things very different. So these skills are actually required to be successful in today's world, beyond the normal things like communication and all that in the learning world you keep teaching. Those are also basic necessities, like the, Maslow's, probably they are at the bottom level today. That's my take on this.
Good. Second on this. In fact, today morning when we were talking in the conference room, and Dr. Adil said, 80%, if you divide HR into two parts, the science and art, 80% is science. Okay, that science will be taken over by digital, AI, etc., the process,
By all the algorithms. Anything that can be algorithmized will be taken over.
Whereas the 20% is an art. That's where we have to excel, and which Dr. Rajorshi just talked about: adaptability, agility, creativity, innovation. That will be power of 20%. So as an HR, yes, we can't throw the process immediately out of the window. We have to learn the process, because that is how our basic knowledge of HR starts. But eventually, we should start focusing very, very quickly on this 20% ideas to be successful.
So in fact, I was worried that they would want to throw it back to me, so I was trying to write down my points to your answer. I think there are 5 skills that you should work towards building in your organization. One is that, not the kind of communications that we are talking about, that same nonsense Chinese whisper game that you play and, you think you're doing communication skills. Dialoguing and refuting and finding solutions, that kind of skill set. You see, most organizations today have a philosophy in their communications, they don't communicate. There's a very beautiful ghazal which says, उनको ये शिकायत है कि हम कुछ नहीं कहते, हमारी तो ये आदत है कि हम कुछ नहीं कहते. So organizations don't talk, and that is where they go wrong, and which is where you will have to systematically build into the enterprise this ability and desire to communicate ahead of time with its own resources. Number 2 is empathy. Are you able to empathize, not sympathize? Anyone in power is going to be sympathizing. Are you able to understand the empathy, the emotions that the people are going into the organization? That is the art that you want them to develop over a period of time. Are you able to do group problem solving, which is very important? Are you able to do facilitation skills, which is not the speech facilitation you do with government officers, not that kind of facilitation. Are you able to facilitate the processes of resources with outcomes and able to give positive communications? That's the kind of readiness you need in the organization. Welcome. That was only out of fear that they may deflect it onto me. But you didn't do it. Thank you. Any other questions? We have got around 5 more minutes before we conclude. I thought there are more wicked questions that would come from the audience. Madam, wicked question? Or only a question? नहीं, उसको wicked बनाओ. बोलो.
Hello.
Yeah, we will ask them also.
Yes. My question to Mr. Deepak Gupta would be, we talk about, you can say, bell curve. So I'm not, you can say, considering, you can say, the executive level jobs or say the middle level of the jobs, but for the jobs which are, you can say, having, lying at the, you can say, bottom of the pyramid, do you think that, do we have an option?
You know, in one of my previous company, we removed this bell curve and we moved to the continuous feedback process. And exactly the same thing was asked by most of our business people. Is it replaceable? But you asked us to fire 10% people, or you asked us to fire 10% people at the end of the year. How are we going to do it? Now imagine we have to rate somebody 10% people every end of the year. Okay? What do? That person may not be performing all throughout the year, but we carry that baggage to the end of the year just to ensure that we rate that person 1, and then slowly we move that person out of this organization. How much burden organization has? So we replace the system with something called continuous feedback. In continuous feedback, we created the tool, okay, where managers and the team member need to have every month feedback, rather than having, and created the score. No bell curve, nothing. It's just that manager and the team member, they need to have discussion among themselves and need to create the transparent score so that I, as a team member, I am aware what is my score out of 100. And we did some score, right? So, for example, we did 4 different buckets. So, and one is the operation, which is like bread and butter, the people side, and second is the customer, and third, and the last is the financial thing. And based upon the level, we can give different percentage weightage to different DCs. So every month, person is aware what is my score, and if my performance is falling below certain score, it means I am already a below performer. And this, if this trend continues 1-2 months, then the intervention required can be sorted out rather than waiting for 1 year. Can be sorted out now, either by some training plan, some improvement plan, or by whatever. The last resort is, if nothing is working out, you know what happens. So this system, yes, it took a little time to make people understand, especially the business people. But when they became partner, and when leadership, HR, everybody became partner, then things became much easy. But let me tell you, once we came out of this bell curve, the fear factor has gone down tremendously in the people by the end of the year. And this has really helped.
So I'm being given signals from the organizers that I should bring it to a kind of a conclusion by now. So I think that it was said in such a beautiful way. All these points have been conveyed. None of it was so difficult for me or necessitating me to create some kind of a summarization of what their thoughts were. They are very elucidated well. I'm going to leave the session with only one thought, that there is something beyond resilience that the world is now talking about. I don't know how many of you have been reading Talib and his books, and his wonderful book called Anti-Fragility. Anti-fragility is that kind of leadership which in crisis is finding a better solution in crisis to meet their passion rather than only trying to run and catch up.
Sorry to interrupt. आपदा में अवसर, you know.
Sorry?
आपदा में अवसर, जो मोदी जी बोलते हैं.
हाँ, सही बात है. So what is very important is that one is resilience, that if you have lost your train, you run very fast again when the train starts and try and catch up your train. The other is to say, I don't need to really run fast. I need to find another destination to go to. And this is an opportunity for me to redefine my destination and reach out there. So with this, I'm going to thank you all. Thank both of you for giving us your wonderful thoughts. Thank you for being such erudite and a nice and a comfortable panel to be part of. And I thank AMA for inviting us. Both of us have come here for the first time, and as I said, I am told that unless AMA invites you, you have not arrived. So now at least we can say we have arrived. So thank you very much.
That will probably my LinkedIn. We have arrived.
Yeah, we have arrived. Also, handle the session at the end.
Thank you very much, all the panel members. May I request Mr. Devang Pandya from HR Circle to come on the stage and present a memento on behalf of AMA. Let's give a thunderous round of applause for this wonderful panel. Some of the key takeaways were the acronym of SETA, the purpose-driven organizations, HR understanding business, business understanding HR. Wonderful takeaways from this discussion. Thank you very much, sir. Adil, sir, for making it very lively.